In May of 2000, the landscape of television changed forever when the Swedish TV series Expedition Robinson came to CBS in the form of Survivor US. Since then, contestants have been squaring off in some of the world's most beautiful locations for a chance at $1 million. Over the years, some pretty unique castaways have graced our screens. So today, we're looking at 10 of the most memorable castaways in Survivor history. In fact, no one has ever done anything like our number 1 castaway, so stick around. Before we get into today's video, make sure you show some love for Top 5 Best by taking a moment to smash that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe, and last but not least, share this video with your friends. Now, let's get started. Number 10. John Koshrin.
I consider myself a strategist and maybe even a mastermind.
Millions of people watch Survivor weekly. And while not just anyone can call themselves a super fan, that's just what John Koshrin was. When Survivor debuted in 2000, John was only 12 years old, but he knew that he had found his calling. During high school, the Washington, D.C. native wore a Survivor-style buff on his arm during months when the show was airing, handed out Survivor newsletters, and even chose the iconic line, "The tribe has spoken," as his yearbook quote in senior year. But his dedication to the series wasn't a passing phase of adolescence. After high school, he was accepted to Columbia and later Harvard Law School, where he wrote a paper comparing the jury system on the show to the American jury system. John Koshrin was truly a super fan, and it all paid off when he was selected as a contestant on Survivor South Pacific. But despite knowing the show like the back of his hand, John finished 8th that year. He would get a second shot in 2012 when he was selected for Survivor Caramone. This time, John would remain the sole survivor after 38 days on the island of Apulu, and left with the $1 million prize. This super fan turned contestant got to live his dream come true not once, but twice. Not too bad. Number 9. Boston Rob Mariano.
I really don't know what I'm doing back again.
The first contestant to ever appear on 4 different Survivor series, Rob Mariano, or as he is more often known, Boston Rob, earned a reputation as a wise and charismatic leader who Survivor host Jeff considers one of the best players to ever play the game. Despite his prowess in challenges and understanding of the game, it took him until Survivor Redemption Island in 2011 to finally walk away with a win. Prior to that, he was a notorious contestant in Marquesas, All-Stars, and Heroes vs. Villains. Perhaps one of Boston Rob's most memorable periods on the series was his budding romance with fellow contestant Amber Burkich. During Survival All-Stars, their relationship, and in turn alliance, resulted in them remaining as the final 2. Unfortunately for Rob, the council voted for Amber in a tight 4-3 decision. Number 8. Rob Cesternino.
For all those who have some questions in this lifetime, I'm donating the Magic 8 Ball.
Dubbed the smartest player to never win, Rob Cesternino is widely credited with creating the flip-flopping strategy of switching alliances multiple times during a single season. Along with creating the strategy, he may have also been the best at it, as he is noted for maintaining many strong alliances that controlled the latter half of his time on Survivor the Amazon in 2003. Unfortunately, as the 14th person voted out, he fell just shy of the runner-up position. Rob would return to Survivor the following year to compete in All-Stars, where he would be voted out in the 4th episode. Since the show, Rob has been committed to creative projects, writing and producing 2 films and hosting a Survivor-themed podcast. The latter won him 5 awards, including Best Entertainment Podcast, Best Video Podcast, Best Produced Podcast, and People's Choice Podcast. Number 7. Michael SKUPIN.
It looks like you just went to the fish market with all that fish.
Michael was a favorite of many people in Season 2 when he proved to be a valuable hunter, who was more than capable of being the breadwinner of Kucha tribe. His general likability and valuable position as the tribe's hunter meant that he was rarely voted for elimination and was a very serious contender, until tragedy struck. On day 17, Michael was tending a fire when he mistakenly inhaled fumes and collapsed into it, severely burning his hands. He quickly regained consciousness and ran screaming into the water. Several of his fellow contestants comforted him until medical help arrived, and he was deemed too badly injured to continue, resulting in the series' first medevac. Despite leaving early, Michael placed 11th overall, but his story wasn't over. Michael got the opportunity to come back in Season 25, Survivor Philippines, as one of 3 contestants who had been removed for medical reasons. He made it all the way to the finals that year, leaving as a runner-up. While Michael was generally well-liked during his time on the show, there was more to the Michigan native than anyone may have imagined. In November of 2016, it was discovered that he was running a Ponzi scheme that had biked investors out of thousands. But while investigators were combing through his computers, they also encountered child pornography. In total, he was charged with 5 counts of larceny by conversion, 1 count of racketeering, and 6 counts of possession of child pornography. Following his trial, he was sentenced to 4 years for possession of child pornography, plus 4 years probation, and $31,800 in restitution for the larceny. He was released on parole December 19, 2017, after serving just 1 year in prison. Number 6. Sierra Easton.
I think that our ability to kind of balance each other out is really going to benefit us.
3-time Survivor contestant Sierra Easton may have made her most notorious moves during her time on Survivor Blood vs. Water, where she became known as the first person to vote out their own loved one. In Blood vs. Water, former contestants competed against family members. Laura Moret of Survivor Samoa returned with her daughter, Sierra Easton. Per the show's design, the 2 of them were placed on opposite teams. However, after the tribal merge, the 2 of them allied, and together they made quite a few enemies, after other contestants began to view them as a substantial threat. Fearful that the 2 of them would be voted out one after another, Sierra bit the bullet and voted out her own mother on the 13th day. The shocking move didn't help much, and Sierra was voted out just 3 days later. However, it earned her a spot on Survivor Cambodia and Game Changers. Number 5. Todd Herzog.
Last night's tribal council, in my opinion, was fantastic.
Survivor's 11th season took the show to China, where contestants were separated into 2 tribes, Fei Long and Zan Hu. Little did anyone know at the time that among the castaways on Fei Long lay the season's eventual winner. Todd was born in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and before Survivor China, he worked as a flight attendant for SkyWest Airlines. During his time on Survivor, Todd was seen as one of the most deceitful and manipulative contestants. However, it was also acknowledged that he played that way consistently since day one, and that when confronted, he was continuously honest about his deceit and strategic view of the game. But regardless of his tactics, he came out on top, being announced the sole survivor on December 16, 2007. Though his story doesn't end there. After Survivor, he sunk into a deep depression, heavily supplemented by massive alcohol abuse. Desperate, his mother contacted Dr. Phil in 2013. The goal was to confront Todd about his alcohol abuse and lifestyle before the health effects became too severe. However, the whole plan went slightly sideways when, in a heartless oversight, the dressing room welcome basket at the show contained a bottle of vodka, which Todd quickly ingested, leaving him heavily intoxicated. Mistaking his condition for nerves, a member of Dr. Phil's staff apparently offered Todd a Xanax. Unfortunately, the mixture of alcohol and prescription medication left him severely inebriated, and it took several people to assist him onto the stage. While it has been debated whether Todd brought the medication with him, he should never have been allowed to take the stage in that condition. Since then, though, he has achieved sobriety, and has been one of the many people to speak out against the explosive traits of reality TV. Number 4. Siri Fields.
I am a bona fide ex-couch potato.
Siri came to Survivor with virtually no relative experience, but that didn't prevent her from becoming a fan favorite, and going on to 3 further appearances. Despite being a self-proclaimed couch potato, this nurse and 49-year-old mother of 3 from New Jersey has frequently been called one of the series' smartest contestants. And after 121 days spent between Panama, Micronesia, Heroes vs. Villains, and Game Changers, she has had plenty of time to master the psychology of the game. In fact, she spent more time on the series than any other female contestant. Pretty impressive for a more reformed couch potato. Number 3. Russell Hantz.
I didn't come here to work. I came here to play.
If ever a Survivor saw a supervillain, it was Russell Hantz. Audiences met Russell on Survivor Samoa, where he became famous for his brash, callous, and ignorant ways. He was known to deliberately cause chaos among the other members of his tribe, and was ruthless in his approach to eliminating other contestants. Time and again, Russell proved his ability to manipulate the other contestants into performing exactly the way he wanted. However, this was also his downfall, as he would have to face the jury, something that ultimately doomed him. Despite his reputation, he appeared a total of 4 times on the series, and reached the final Tribe Council twice. While he's one of the most talked about contestants in the show's 38-season history, his legacy is widely disputed, as he's thought to have done more to harm others than to prove himself. His conduct has since sparked discussions concerning ethics and acceptable gameplay for the series. Number 2. Richard Hatch. The very first person to ever win Survivor, Richard Hatch defined the way the game was played. He elevated the gameplay from physical to psychological survival and founded the show's first ever alliance, dubbed the Toggy Alliance. Richard also returned in Survivor All-Stars in 2003. Apart from his gameplay style, another thing that made Richard stand out was his habit of running around naked. Aside from frustrating a few censors, he also came in contact with another contestant, Sue Hawk. Apparently, his genitals touched her during a challenge, and she was so horrified that she quit the show the following day. By then, Richard had already been voted out, and there was little recourse to take. Perhaps karma had plans for Richard, though, because in 2006, he was found guilty of tax evasion and sentenced to 51 months in federal prison. Following that, he was given an additional 9 months for other financial crimes. In the end, Richard stood to serve as long as 13 years in prison, but even the courts found it difficult to muddle through his sordid financial dealings, and the IRS never fully completed its investigation, failing to disclose an exact sum of the taxes due. Since his legal troubles, Richard has gone on to appear in a handful of other reality programs, including Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Australia, The Biggest Loser Temptation Island, Battle of the Network Reality Stars, Dog Eat Dog, and The Weakest Link.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. Sandra DIAZ-TWINE.
The queen stays queen. Adios.
Sandra was an office assistant from Stamford, Connecticut, who was first a contestant on Survivor Pearl Islands. Her interpersonal gameplay and focused survival tactics took her all the way, and she was the season's sole survivor, claiming the $1 million prize. But Sandra wasn't done, and came back to compete in Survivor Heroes vs. Villains 7 years later in 2010. To the amazement of everyone, she once again walked away the sole survivor, cementing her as the only person to ever win twice, and earning her the unofficial title, Queen of Survivor. Sandra took one more run at it in 2017 on Survivor Game Changers, a season devoted to contestants who had forever altered the history of the series. This time, however, she was the 6th castaway voted out. Sort of a bittersweet ending, if you ask me.